All right, well, welcome everyone to Google Maps. Tech Tuesday. Tim's going to take us through everything that we can do with Google Maps, which is pretty amazing.
Well, we'll go over a couple things you can do with Google Maps. Everything would
You
be
promised
a
everything.
bit much.
Okay, all right, just this once.
Okay. So remember that you will gain access to the slides afterwards if Mary has your email and also the recording of the presentation. The slides aren't going to be particularly fascinating because most of what we're going to be looking at is directly within the Google Maps online app. But it can be useful to kind of jog your memory later on. And, if you go back to Google Maps, the slides in a year or so, you'll see the updated version for the next time we run a class like this. So the first thing that's kind of nice about Google Maps is it integrates with your Google account. And one of the things that allows you to do is it allows you to share your location with anyone who you have as a contact in your Google account. So generally, there's very little reason to do this on your desktop because you probably aren't moving that around that much. You can share your location if you're on a laptop, and I'll show you how to do that. You generally will just put a pin and say, I'm currently here. But where it really gets interesting is on the phone. So if you remember back in the day, if you were going to go like on a camping trip or a kayaking trip, people would say, let someone know where you're going to be going and then where you're going to try and end up and roughly how long. And if you haven't been contacted by me after, 6 hours, I'm probably missing or, lost in the woods. Please save me. So with location sharing, you can do this. If you open up Google Maps on your phone, you can click on your icon in the top right-hand corner. If you look at the picture on the screen, there's a T, which may be faint, but it's in the top right-hand corner. You click on that, and then this menu pops up. So in this menu, I've underlined the location sharing option. You would click on this, and you would share your location. And then it would ask you, who do you want to share your location with? So these will generally be your contacts. So you can select whoever you want to share it with and click share, and then you're good to go. One of the nice things about this is it automatically adds an option to set the amount of time you want to share your location. So the reason why this is cool is in the past with some of these sharing options, it would either be on or off. So if you shared your location with somebody and then you just forgot to turn it off, they would have the ability to view your location for X number of days, weeks, months, years until you said no. With this, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to be there within 5 hours or something of that nature. So you can share your location with somebody for 5 hours. You can also, if you are doing a drive, so if you're using directions in Google Maps, if you go to the bottom of the screen in that case, you can hit share trip progress, and this will share your location to an individual or a group of people that you select until the trip is over. So this is really useful if you're like me and you drive to relatively far distances away to meet with people. I can just share my trip with them, and then we don't have to have that coordinating thing of I'll be there in half an hour, I'll be there in an hour, I'll be there in 2 hours kind of thing. They can just look at the location and see the estimated amount of time left on the trip. Are there any questions on location sharing?
Yeah, we have a question maybe.
How does the person on the other end see the sharing? Do they get a link or, email link, or how do they find your trip?
They'll get a link. So they'll get a link to click on, which will open up Google Maps. They don't need to have a Google account in order to view it. it's nice, it's easier for them if they do, it's kind of a nicer interface, but it'll just give them a link to the location. And if you are statically sharing your location, it'll just give them a link to the coordinates, which when they click on it, it will then open it up in a mapping software and tell them exactly where you are or wherever you linked is. So you can use this for, sharing a location that you want to go to with another person, and then they can click on that and see the directions to get there.
Yeah, this restaurant.
Does anybody
days.
online have a question for Tim about location sharing?
You have to set that up in your settings, though, don't you, to allow for location sharing?
So if you're using an Android phone, it'll kind of automatically accept, or it'll automatically, as soon as you want to share your location, it will allow your location to be shared. If you're using an Apple phone, an iPhone, if you have location sharing turned off for Google Maps, once you click on location sharing, it should prompt you and say you need to allow location for this application. And then it'll kind of guide you through allowing your location to be shared.
Anybody online have a question for Tim about this, or should we just move on?
Yeah, I think you're muted at the moment.
I'm not muted, are you? You can't hear me?
No, I can hear you.
Okay.
No, someone's trying to talk.
Oh, I see, I'm sorry.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I have a different menu on my phone than what I have on my desktop screen. Why is that? How do I get to that menu that is on the screen now? You say click on your icon or top right. I've done that, and I'm getting that.
Okay, so there you are in the directions menu. So if you go to the top left, there's an arrow pointing to the left. You want to click on that.
Okay, and that's what I get when I do that. Whoops.
Okay, I can't see it real well, but on the top right hand side, you should be able to, there should be like a circle with a letter in it or a picture of your face
There is
to the right of the search here option.
No.
It may be, Robert, that it would be easier for you to come in if you can tomorrow with tech drop-in, and then Tim can sit down with you on a one-on-one.
Yeah, I mean, it may be like a non-updated app, but in the, I just checked on both of my devices. So I have an Android phone and an iPhone.
Yep.
The interface is the same. For like the main area where there's a search here option in the top. It looks the same. Let me just open up maps on my Android phone. Yeah, it's similar. The Apple one has like latest in the area that pops up, but on the bottom of it, it should say like explore, go, saved, contribute, and updates. And then in the top, it'll have search here. And on the right hand side, it'll have your name or your icon that you click on.
No.
Also,
Sorry.
make sure that you're in Google Maps. Sometimes if you,
I am in Google Maps.
okay.
I'd come in tomorrow, except I'm going to be in surgery at MCH tomorrow, so that's out. But maybe next week.
Okay. Yep. I mean, just play around with it a little bit, I guess. You might be just in a menu that's slightly different. Like you may be on Go or something, or saved. but it looked like you were in the right location from what I saw. The top of the screen was a bit flooded out with light, so I wasn't able to be 100% sure on that. All right, so the next thing I want to point or draw your attention to on the screen in front is also with the screenshotted view. Right underneath the yellow line, it says offline maps. A lot of times when people are traveling, they may not be very sure if they're going to be in a location that will have good connectivity for their experience. And in order to kind of allow them to have Google Maps available, even if there isn't great internet, you can click on offline maps. Once you click on that, you'll be able to download maps for you to a certain area on a map. I think I have it on this screen, yeah. So you can kind of see here what that looks like. If you click download a map of this area, you will get a big block that's kind of shaded blue, and you can resize this. You can resize the map, and that will determine how much map data Google will download directly to your device. One of the ways that this is really nice is if you're going to go overseas or something to that effect, and you're not sure about the level of cell coverage you're going to have, you can download a map of the city or area that you're going to be in, so you can use it even if you can't connect to data. And just to remind everyone, location data and this kind of data are separate. So you can have your data turned off, but your phone will still know your location. The other reason why this is really nice is if you're using a city's subway system, you can still see where you are on the map, even though your phone isn't going to have very good cell service. The other thing is you can kind of figure out how big this map is based on the location that it's showing of Peterborough. And this amount of data will only take up 10 megabytes of your space. That's not that much. That's the equivalent of one photo from a new iPhone. So you can store a lot of this map data for a large amount of, for a very large area without fearing that you're going to fill up your phone with this map data. All right, I think that was it for this little screen.
Mhm.
All right, car park pin. All right, so if you're like me, you will not remember if you're in the large city. If you're in a large city, you will not remember where your car is. One of the ways you can do this is if you are in your phone app, you will be able to see where you are based on a little blue dot. If you click on that dot, it will then bring up a couple of options. One of those options is asking if you want to save your parking. If you click this, it will then save that location as where your car is currently parked, and it will also give you the ability to add a photo or add a note or add whatever you want to that location. So the reason why that's nice is if you go to the Boston airport and you fly away somewhere warmer for a week and you come back, I do not remember where I parked my car, but you can pull this up and you can say something to the effect of, my car is parked in C27. And then you can exactly remember, based on this car park location, where your car is parked, based on the numbers. So you don't have to write it down on a piece of paper that you will inevitably lose. The other nice thing is you can save a picture. So in the very unlikely chance that this happens, but you can save a picture of where your car is parked. You can see both cars on either side if you take the picture right. And then if your car has a massive dent in it, when you come back from grocery shopping and the paint is white and the car on the right-hand side was white, you can think to yourself, maybe this person dented my car. It's never really happened to me, But it's basically useful for just remembering where your car is if it's in a large parking lot and you may not go there too often, so you don't have like a preferred area to park in. One of the
Where's the blue
one-
pin? There's a,
the
under Explorer? Is
the
that?
blue pin is if you are on your cell phone.
Oh.
So that's there. You can do 90% of Google Maps things on your cell phone. You can do 90% of Google Maps things on your computer. There is mostly overlap, but some things like on your computer, it's not incredibly useful to save where you're parked because that would be more of a cell phone usage. So they kind of hide the options back and forth for them. All right, so measuring distance. So measuring distance is pretty useful in my opinion. So if we just go to Google Maps, and let's pick two options. So if you are like me and you're lucky enough to know somebody who has a boat, but you don't actually have to, buy a boat or manage a boat or repair a boat or do upkeep on a boat. One of the things that this is useful for is determining how much gas you need / the distance travel time in a boat, because you aren't really able to, in Google Maps or anything else that I've used, really determine how long it's going to take you to go from point A to point B on the water. So if we say that we have a boat at dockside, this is in Lake Winnipesaukee, and we want to go from Alton Bay, we can just right click on the location where we want to start, click on measure distance, and now we can just click away and it will add distance. So we can see how long it will take us, or what the distance it will be to go to Brewster Beach. So with this, we can see that the total distance is 8.62 miles. So this allows us just to kind of see the distance it will take over water, which for some people might be useful because you really can't, it's not going to give you a road, and it won't really say, if from X to X, it'll take you, 9 miles to get there by boat, unless it's a ferry. So you're able to kind of do this distance calculation to roughly figure out how long it'll take you to go from point A to point B on a boat. Once you're done measuring distance, you can right click and hit clear measurement. One of the other fun things you can do with measurement is if we go to layers on the bottom left-hand corner and we go to terrain, or we go to satellite, we can see a picture of what everything looks like. So normally whenever you're using Google Maps, you'll be in map view, which will show you all the roads. But if we go to satellite, we can see actual pictures from the sky as to what we're looking at. Now, one of the nice things with satellite is you can do some interesting things with measurement tools. So let's say this is your house, and let's say you want a yard company to come in and top fill your backyard. They're going to ask you for measurements. They're going to ask, roughly how much space. And in your head, you're going to say, okay, well, I'm on like a 1.5 acre lot. My house probably isn't that big. So let's just say I have 1 acre of backyard. But with this, you're actually able to get a fairly accurate measurement. So we would just right click on the map, click on measure distance, and then start outlining the yard. Doesn't have to be incredibly exact. And as soon as we close it, if we look on the very bottom, it will say the total area of this is roughly 12,000 square feet. So I know I would need to cover with topsoil or whatever for 12,000 square feet of it. Same thing, I recently redid a driveway. So it made it very easy for me to measure how much surface I actually needed. How much tar, that's what it's called. So you would need 8,400 square feet of coverage or asphalt. Any thoughts on measuring? I also fully realize I view it. Sorry, what?
I have no idea how you got to the measure distance.
So he right clicked on, once he got into the satellite.
Oh,
he
this
was-
is on a computer. I can't do this on my phone.
I think you're able to if you like long press.
Oh,
Let me just see.
all right, well,
Like
I'll
in-
check on my computer when I get.
In an iPad, there's kind of a diamond up in the upper right-hand corner
Uh-huh,
that if you touch, it'll bring up the,
okay.
but I'm not sure, I don't have my phone with me, so.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, there are
Go ahead, sorry.
there are some things that are more useful on the phone. There are some things that are more or easier to do on desktop. So for this case, what you would do is you would click for your phone, you would click somewhere.
Huh.
It would then pull up some options, and one of those options is measure distance. If you scroll down a little bit,
Yeah, okay. I'm
and
not
then it
gonna
would let
worry
you.
about it. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'll
Yep.
check on my computer when I get home.
Yeah, it's definitely easier on a computer to do that.
And Tim, one of the things I use when I do the measure, when I'm exploring what I want to do is. When you set the pins for measuring distance, you can move those easily, so if you have decided to include another stop. You don't have to start all over again.
Yes. Let's see if I can do it. I think if you, yeah, you can just drag a point on any line
Right,
in order
exactly.
to change the distance.
So if you want to do a side stop that you hadn't originally thought about, you could just do that very easily.
Yep, and you can also do that just for directions as well, not just for business.
We have a question.
Not related to distance, but like on the page you're on now, how does the app decide which businesses appear, on the map?
It's partially based on location data. So if it knows that, and on your ads. So if you have been searching for footwear a lot, or if you've been searching for like hotels recently, it's more likely to show those things to you. But otherwise, it will show you things that it deems that a lot of people find interesting or click on, and then it'll show those kind of more, it'll be more likely to show those than other items. But if you notice, you can like kind of scroll in, and then it'll kind of add things as it goes. But there's definitely a point at which everything kind of pops into existence, which is right here.
Right, and you have that option to filter up with the buttons up on top.
Yes, and then the other thing is if you've been to a location before, it will be more likely to show that to you on a map. So for example, if I had been to Christopher's salon in the past, I would be fairly, my guess is it would show me that even in this further out view. Because I had been there.
How do you filter out all the businesses if you want to do that?
Well, it's not necessarily filtering out. It's
How-
more of, it'll ask you to filter to what you want to see, which would naturally move things that weren't a part of that search criteria.
Well, like, what if I want to see exactly what you're showing now and have the street names in and the names of the towns and the names of the rivers, but none of those points? They just, I'm not looking for a hairstylist or a restaurant. I want to get rid of that stuff for what I want to accomplish at the moment. So can you do that?
That's a good question, and I don't actually know. I was kind of wondering if I had gone to the print dialog, if it would give me the option to not see any of that. Yeah, I don't see a way to turn off.
There must be a way, but I tried to figure that out just a couple days ago and I sure couldn't figure out how to do it, so.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're looking for a restaurant, it's useful, but if you're not, it just clutters up the screen. And,
yeah, that's actually a good, yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Because I think, I could be wrong, but I think in the past, when you had gone to print, I thought there was an option to, for like what you wanted to stay on the print option menu. But I no longer see that. Yeah, I do not know the answer to that question. It's a good question though.
Yeah. Worth exploring.
If you're in satellite view, does the view default to the last time they took pictures? Let's say in your neighborhood, I've just wondered about, how recent, the satellite view actually is for some things.
Yes, it will be the most recent option. So one of the fun things is if we go to the bottom right and we grab the person, and then we just drop it in the map. So the person's in the bottom right, and we get street view. This is where you can kind of turn around and see what the front face of a store is going to look like. What you can do is once you're in street view, in the top left, you can click and it will see more date. And I see that the last time Google went through Peterborough was November 2015, but we have data from September 2008. So if we click on this, we can see what the town looked like in 2008. So if we, for example, wanted to see what the old library looked like from 2008, we can see that.
We miss it. Nah.
I remember when this used to be entirely Ivy.
Yes.
But as we can see, we have data from 2008, 2009, 2015, and 2018.
Thanks.
So the library really didn't change much in that time period. But you can also see that the picture quality gets a lot better.
Nobody will be able to find the library because it's not there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be very fun in like the larger cities like New York and Boston and stuff. They will have more data. So if we just go to Boston and drag our little buddy down here. You can oftentimes see a very big change. Actually, not that big of a change. But you can kind of see what you can do, where you can see the different different dates, and you can see a location, and then you can kind of travel around it. And then you can lose hours of your life just looking at these things.
It's like a Google version of the Wayback Machine.
Pretty much. And then you can always hit see top left, see latest date to remove that menu where it shows you the ability to see all the older stuff. Okay. Custom lists. So one of the things you're able to do with Google Maps is you're able to kind of save locations. So if you're planning a trip, for example, I find this very useful. So if I want to go to, well, I need parking, so I'll just click on this, North End parking. And if I hit save, which is the little kind of, what are those called, Mary? It's like a book.
A bookmark?
Yeah, it's like a little bookmark icon.
Yeah, the save icon.
Yep. You can click on save, and then you can add it to a list. So I'm just going to add it to my travel plans. But if I wanted to do a new list, I could click new list and say Boston, or I'll say 2023 Boston trip. Create. So now the North End garage will be saved in my trip. So if I go to saved on the left-hand side, I can see my lists. If I go to 2023 Boston trip, I can see that I have the North End garage parking labeled. One of the nice things about this is if you want to share your trip with someone else so they can add to it, you can hit share list. So you can click on the three dots, hit sharing options or share list, and then select who you want to share the list with. The reason why this can be nice is you can kind of figure out all the places you want to go beforehand, and then all you need to do, instead of like searching for it while you're there, you can just go to your list and click on it. So we want to go to the pizza place. So we're going to also save the pizza place in the 2023 Boston trip. Paul Revere House, that seems fun. Save Boston trip. So now if we just kind of spitball ideas and throw a lot of stuff in there, we can always just go to list, go to the Boston trip, click on it, and then we can see the all the locations we've saved. The thing I really like about this, and the reason why I do this, is I like to, if I go back to a place, oftentimes there will be like one restaurant or one experience that was really cool, but I will forget the name of it, or I'll forget where it was exactly in the city. So I can go back to a previous trip and kind of scan and see what I did. Kind of helps me remember what happened. On your phone, it's a very similar process. You would find a location or a thing. Let's go to Cheers. You would just click on it, and basically the interface would look very similar to this on the left-hand side, except it would also have a little cutout of the map on top, but it would still allow you to hit the save button to put it into a saved location. Are there any questions about lists?
Do we have any questions online? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I really like it. And in case you're wondering, yes, you can save something to multiple lists. So if I hit the save icon, it's going to go in Boston trip and food. I can click save food and save Boston trip. And now if I go to the location, I can see it's saved in 2 different places on the left-hand side. And then if I click on it, it will show me the 2 locations where it's saved. To remove something from your list, you can just go to it and then deselect it from the list that you want to remove it from. And then it's no longer saved. So one of the nice things about Google Maps is its ability to remember traffic data. So what this allows you to do is this allows you to get directions. So I'm going to go to library, Peterborough Library, Peterborough Town Library, X, and then I will ask to get directions. So that's the little direction icon. So starting point, I'm going to go with the Peterborough Town Library. And we are going to go to the Boston Airport. Boston Logan International Airport. So we can see that it would take us 1 hour and 33 minutes. But that's not really incredibly useful to me because I'm not leaving right now to go to the airport. I have a flight tomorrow at 9 a.m. Okay, so for reference, that's a horrible time to get a flight out of Logan, but we're doing it. So right underneath where you put the 2 locations where you want directions for, there's a leave now option. So that's what the time would be estimated if you left right now. If we click on that, we can see that we have 2 other options. We have depart at and we have arrive by. So in this case, my flight is at 10, so I'm trying to get there 1 hour early. So I need to arrive at the airport at 9. So arrive by 9 a.m. on Wednesday, May 3rd. So now we can see that instead of 1 hour and 40 minutes, it'll take us 1 hour 40 to 2 hours and 50 minutes to make that trip, which means that Google suggests we leave around 6:10 a.m. So if we hadn't looked at the the estimated driving time, if we had just taken that 1 hour and 40 minute number and left at that time tomorrow morning, we probably wouldn't have made the flight. So, and just so you're aware, whenever Google says typically 1 hour 40 to 2 hours 50, what that means is if for some reason no one wanted to be on the road and there was 0 traffic, it would take 1 hour 40. If you were being realistic about the traffic level, it's going to take us 2 hours and 50 minutes. So it's not really, you shouldn't guess that it's somewhere in the middle. It will generally be at the top end of the amount of time it takes.
Don't forget that your phone will stop working as soon as you get into the tunnel, which happened to me the first time I drove there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It took me probably 5 times with that tunnel to finally remember. It was more difficult for me to leave Logan than it was for me to get there, because to get there you take 1 right-hand turn and then you can kind of follow the signs.
Yeah.
But leaving, it was like, surprise, you were supposed to exit. I'm like, what? But yeah, so this is very nice because it will tell you, it'll kind of take into account the amount of traffic that is normally there. So the reason why this is kind of nice is we can also, if we're trying to determine when we should leave or when we should schedule an appointment somewhere, we can kind of increase what time we're willing to arrive by. And then we can see, okay, if, you know, we had a flight that wanted us to be at the airport for 1 p.m., it would take us 1 hour and 20 to 2 hours. So that would roughly save us an hour. So you can kind of track how much traffic will be on any given route with this functionality. Are there any questions about kind of the arrive by, depart by, and current time when it comes to scheduling a directions in Google Maps?
I have a question. Is there a way, if you're in a car and you stop to get a coffee, is there some way to pause your trip so it doesn't yell at you to make a U-turn?
I don't know, mainly because I haven't experienced that recently. So I oftentimes will travel to Pittsburgh, well, around Pittsburgh. And I will stop at various rest stops along the way. And I will I will just minimize maps and it won't yell at me while I'm walking around a gas station, for example. So I don't know if that's a thing anymore, honestly.
Okay.
So it may be smart enough to kind of realize that you're now walking or you're at a place where a lot of people stop and it won't yell at you. But I know I do remember in the past where, you know, I'd have Waze going or something and it would yell at me the entire time I'm trying to use the bathroom.
Right. Oh, the other thing I love is when you come out of a motel early in the morning and turn it on and it says head south.
Yeah,
And you
Yeah,
have
which
no
direction is
idea
that?
where you are, or what south is.
Yes. I feel that as well.
What was that round red icon just east of Scranton? There it is. What does that indicate?
That means that there is something going on there. So normally we would be taking 84 straight,
Mhm.
but the minus sign means that this road is closed.
So that's real time. That's like an accident or something.
Real time traffic. The other thing that's nice is if you notice these little orange circle, as I'm zooming in, it doesn't make them any bigger. Okay. But as it's like a little working dude in a yellow circle, those signify construction zones. So that will tell you that there's going to be road work there. So it's kind of nice because you can like zoom out and you can see, okay, there's going to be construction near Hartford. So it'll kind of give you an idea of what's going to be going on before you get there. And all of that is taken into account whenever they put the estimated travel time.
And they also have speed traps that show up on the Google Map.
Yes. And another layer is traffic. If you notice down here, I hit under satellite, there's an option for traffic. So just look at the map and then I'm going to click it and see how now there's stuff the roads are like green or red. These will show me what roads are currently very busy. So, you know, green it's pretty clear. Yellow is moderate traffic. Then you have orange and then you have red, which is almost standstill. So you can kind of get an idea of, you know, if some road is going to be fairly traffic heavy or not. And that's mainly useful for planning. But it is nice that it kind of takes all of that data into account whenever it's telling you how long it's going to take from location A to location B. The other thing I just want to point out is there are the ability to see like gas stations on the way to kind of plan a little bit, but one that has been added is EV charging. So if you're using Google Maps and you're driving along, you can hit the EV charging button and it will try and find the nearest charging station that is on your route. So it will, I know Tesla will do this automatically for you. I don't know if the other kind of electric cars will do so. But if you're on a location from location A to location B, and you ask it for an EV charging station or a gas station, it will try and direct you to one that is on your route, not one that is like behind you. So it will kind of take that into account as to where you're trying to go whenever it gives you a recommendation for gas or charging or something of that nature. Yep, we've now depart at arrive by, and we kind of did the live traffic option. You can look at live traffic. So that's traffic that is currently happening, but you can also click down and select typical traffic. So this will allow you to do things like change what time of day you want to see the traffic for. So for example, Tuesday at, 4 p.m., this is what the traffic looks like in Boston, and then you can see like Wednesday, Thursday, you can see if there's really any change. And we can click on Saturday and we see that the traffic is a little bit less. But if we went at, 1:45, this is what the traffic would look like, or, 6 a.m., it looks pretty clear. So you can kind of play around with that to view traffic estimates for different times of day and different days of the week. Okay, so we have one more thing, and that's route planning. So this may not be incredibly useful to a lot of people. I find it useful, so that's why I talk about it. But you can create stops on your route, and you can also reorder those stops. So the reason why this is nice is if we are in Peterborough and we want to go to Dublin, the Dublin Public Library, we want to go to the Manchester Library, we want to go to the Nashua Library.
Man,
What's another library that we should add?
Stowe, Vermont. All right, maybe not.
Exeter.
Exeter. Ah, that's a good idea, Exeter.
Okay, so now we want to go to all of these libraries in one day. So we have them all listed, and we can see that this is going to take us 2 hours and 21 minutes. Maybe if we reorder some of these, maybe if we start at Nashua, and then we go to Peterborough, Dublin, maybe Manchester, but you can reorder these and kind of see down here, 2 hours and 49 minutes.
Are you just dragging those?
Yep, on the left-hand side, you will just click and drag to reorder. So if we start in Exeter, it'll be 2 hours and 15 minutes. We'll end in Dublin. Let's see if we switch Nashua around, 2 hours. That seems pretty ideal. So we can you can set all the locations you need to be in for a day. and then you can reorder them to kind of find the best route.
I love doing this on the computer and then, as you see, send directions to your phone, so you can do the planning on a big screen.
Yes, so it's very nice to kind of do all of this information or input all of this information on the larger screen. And then, as Mary said, all you would do is you would send directions to your phone, which would allow you to send it to all of your phones. So for me, this is the number, this is the email, this is directly to my phone, and this is directly to my work phone. So if I click any of these two options, it will automatically show up in Maps on the phone. If I click on email or text, it will give me a link to click on, which would then have these directions as a part of it. The other nice thing is if you set a time where you want to be at a location at a given time, like in the example where we went from the Peterborough Library to Boston Logan International Airport, and you send it to your phone, it will then, Google will then remind you that you should leave.
Huh.
So if you say that you want to get to the airport at 9 a.m. and you send the directions to your phone, Google will then say, you know, at 6:30 or whatever, it'll say, hey, if you want to make it to Boston at 9, you need to leave within 10 minutes. So it'll kind of give you a heads up to go do that, which I find useful because I forget. The other reason why that's nice is if there has been like a road closure or something to that effect, it will take that into account whenever it is given you the heads up. So whenever you were doing the directions, maybe the roads were entirely maintenance free, and then overnight, one of them had to close due to an accident. When you wake up, you're not necessarily going to check to see if there was an accident on the way. You're just going to kind of go out at the time you thought to. But Google will kind of say, hey, there's an accident. You now need to leave a little bit earlier. And as a reminder, yes, all of this is incredibly creepy. So if you were wondering about that, you are correct.
On your desktop, would everything in Google Maps be exactly the same, whether you're dealing with a Macintosh or a PC?
Correct. Everything will be the exact same. It's all through the browser. So there would be no change.
Because
the only difference is kind of how you right click. On my Mac, I two-finger touch, versus with a mouse, I do something different.
well, I notice now that when I open, I want to look at a Google map and I open up Safari, it takes me to Apple's map system, not to Google's. And the only way I can easily get into Google is to open up another browser. And that's probably because I'm using DuckDuckGo on Safari.
On Safari.
Yeah.
Yeah, there could be some weird interactions like that. But if you go to google.com/maps, it'll always take you to Google Maps. Also, if you go to maps.google.com. But other services will try and redirect you to their map alternative.
The maps, the Apple Maps do not have, unless I'm doing it wrong, do not have the Street View option, which is why I always want to, or usually want to go to Google Maps versus.
Correct.
Apple Maps.
I'll double check, but last I looked at it, I completely agree with you that that Apple Maps did not have Street View. Yeah, Apple Maps doesn't have Street View. That's just a purely Google thing.
And very useful.
Yes, very fun. I enjoy, because I really like being able to street view a location. So like Dublin Public Library, for example, I may not have been there before, so I like to just kind of look at it. I don't even know where it is. think it's this way.
Yeah,
But I like to kind of go to a place and look at it so I can see where should I be parking.
Yeah.
So I see that there's a parking lot in the back,
yeah.
you know, so that will put my mind at ease that I know that there's parking available. So that's the main reason why I would functionally use Street View, is to find out where I should be parking.
Do you leave your location history off or on in maps?
It's up to you. I think on Apple now, it will be defaulted to not saving your location history. But if you tell it to, it'll save all the places you've been, which on the one hand can be convenient and interesting, and on the other hand, now Google has access to everywhere you've ever been and for how long.
Is it the same way with web activity? If you have that turned on, then they know all of your locations that you've searched for in Google Maps. Is that correct?
Yes, if you are signed into Google and you are searching for locations, it will remember where you've searched. If you do something like use, you know, not Google Chrome, you do not sign in using your Google account to that browser, and then you look at Google Maps, Google wouldn't have that direct correlation of it was you who was searching. But if you then use a browser on that same computer, Google can then figure out that the IP address that you searched from is where this person's Google account is searching from, and it can tie those two things together. And if you decide to use a VPN, is really the only time when Google wouldn't be able to directly tie together you and your searches in Google Maps. Yeah, they know.
You saw the article about the grandfather of Google AI leaving Google and saying we're in trouble.
Yeah, he said something to the effect of, I thought we were going to be, he says something to the effect of, in 50 years is when I thought we were going to be where we're going to be at in like 2 more years or something like that. It's like it advanced a lot faster than he thought it would.
Getting a lot harder to lie about where you've been, you know. And what a lot of crimes are being solved, you know.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, what?
Oh, I just was gonna ask if we had any last questions.
Oh, perfect.
What the main use I use of Google Maps is to locate or have a record of sites, and these are in various countries and in the US. So these are sites that have a theme, and so I will create a map, and it might have 20 or 200 sites, and so I'll add a pin for where those sites are, and then once the map is completed, I don't use it to determine routes between the sites. It's only to, it's a database of sites that have a common theme. And you'll click on these icons and you'll get, it'll pop up, it'll give you information on that site, the location, the history of it, what type of site it is, this sort of thing. And I find that very useful.
Oh yeah, it's incredibly powerful that for that. The other thing is, if you do the same thing in Google Earth, you have even more options. for kind of that style of saving.
So that raises the question, are you going to do a session on Google Earth in the future?
We have done a session on Google Earth in the past.
Oh.
We didn't get many requests to go back to it. One of the reasons why I think that happened is to use Google Earth, you have to download it to your computer, which is more of a barrier than Google Maps, which is, you just kind of log into it from a computer browser, whereas Google Earth is something you have to have a Google account for. You have to download this relatively large program that isn't incredibly fast. But Google Earth is absolutely fantastic for things that aren't necessarily on a road. Like if you want to save a hiking trail and put different points on the trail and fun facts about that, Google Earth is fantastic. If you want to find a new place to hike, I hike, so that's all my experience with it. If you want to find a new place to hike, you're able to search these huge databases on Google Earth of hiking trails, and you're able to see very high quality pictures that people have put of the trails and all of these, trail markers, and someone saying, in 1957, this person found this area, which was this breakthrough. This is the first sighting of this bird that people had thought extinct for 200 years. It was found here, kind of thing. So that's kind of the things that Google Earth is really good for.
Read one more question.
Do you have to have Apple CarPlay to use Google Maps as your default guidance system in a vehicle, or how does that work?
So Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are depending on which phone you have, that's the only thing that's needed for your car. So if your car has Android Auto but not Apple or CarPlay or whatever it's called, then you would have to use an Android phone in that car with Google Maps. But if you have Apple CarPlay and you have Google Maps, I believe it should work. But not all car manufacturers have the same level of integration with things like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So it kind of depends on your vehicle. Like my wife's car has Android Auto, and it does not allow any sort of map display on the car's display. So we still have to stick a phone on the dash, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's very car specific. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Tim. One last question, which I don't think you can answer, but can you change the voice of Google Maps? Sometimes I find her very irritating.
I think you're able to change the you can change her from like male, female, and then you can say like Australian, British,
Okay, I might find it.
kind of thing. But it admittedly has been a while since I've looked at that. So I may be misremembering or thinking of Waze or something like that. But I think you can.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Any questions online for Tim before we leave?
Thank you.
Great, thank you, everyone. I'm gonna stop the recording.